Hello everyone. Today I will discuss shell sort. So shell sort is a comparative sorting algorithm. It means that in order to arrange the values in ascending or descending order, it compares one element to the other, and then it exchanges those particular values so that they follow a particular order. So shell sort actually uses insertion sort. So this is how the shell sort algorithm works. First, we initialize a gap. You can think of gap as being a partition. So we choose the initial gap as number of elements divided by 2. Then we sort the corresponding elements in each gap or partition. That means we take the first element in the first partition, first element in the second partition, and so on, and apply insertion sort to just those elements. Then we move on to the second element of the first partition, then second element of the second partition, and so on, and perform insertion sort. Once we do that, then we reduce the gap by dividing n with 2 more than the previous value. So initially it's n by 2, in the next phase it will be n by 4, and in the next phase it will be n by 8, and so on. And we keep reducing the gap after steps 1 and 2 until the gap becomes 1. Now when the gap becomes 1, so we typically use that insertion sort. Okay. So here are 6 elements. So the gap here is n divided by 2, which is equal to 3. So we are taking the floor so that if there is any fractional part, we might ignore that. So here we have 2 partitions with gap as 3. Okay, so this is partition 1 and partition 2. So we first do insertion sort on the first element of the first partition and the first element of the second partition. Here you can see that this is in decreasing order. So we are trying to do this in increasing order. So 8 should be here and 23 should be here. There are only 2 elements, so we exchange that. Okay. So the first element of the partitions are sorted. We move on to the second element of the first partition and second element of the second partition. Now here too we have 78 here and 32 here. So we want 32 to be in place of 78 and 78 to be in the place of 32, so that it's in increasing order. So what we do is we just exchange these two, right? Now we move on to the third element of the first and the second partition. These are already in increasing order, which is 45 is less than 56, so they are okay. All right. Now we have completed one phase. Then we go back to step 1, which is decrease the gap. Okay. Now here, previously we divided the number of elements by 2. Now we are going to divide the number of elements by 4. So it actually comes out to be 1 point something. So we ignore the fractional part and only consider the integer part. So it comes to 1. Therefore, we are considering individual elements. So here we apply the insertion sort. So insertion sort will divide the elements into unsorted and sorted elements. Okay, so here we'll have unsorted. So this will be indicated by this dash line. Okay, you see this line here. On the left side is the sorted list, and on the right side is the unsorted list. And we keep moving this one element at a time until it reaches the end of the array. All right. So now we move to the next element 32. This is already sorted. Okay. Now the next element 45 is already sorted in the sense that 8, 32, and 45 are in increasing order. So we don't do much there. But now when we look at 23, 23 should be in between 8 and 32. So what we do is we move 45 ahead by 1 position, and 32 by one position, and then we insert 23 between 8 and 32. So this is typical insertion sort. All right, so move 45 here, move 32 here. Now we created this space between 8 and 32, and that's where we are going to insert 23. Okay, now these elements are sorted up to 8, 23, 32, 45 are sorted. So if you look at 78, all right, this is already sorted since 78 is greater than 45. So we don't do anything much here. But now if you look at 56, 56 should be between 45 and 78. That means it should be inserted between 45 and 78. So in order to do that, I'm going to move 78 by one position to the front and then insert 56. So we put 78 here and then insert 56 there. Now we see that all the elements are now sorted. Okay, so this is the insertion sort. Thank you.